For some people, somewhere along the way, life stopped feeling like a story and it started feeling like a series of emergencies. Not always dramatic ones, just constant ones. Bills, health scares, aging parents, kids who need way more than you have to give, work that never really ends, news that never lets you breathe, and every time you think maybe this next week will be calmer, something else happens. Another call, a problem, another thing that just can't wait. And this question eventually forms, not loudly, but persistently in the background of our brains. Where is this God who's supposed to help me? And not in a philosophical way, but where is the God that's supposed to help me in a very practical, tired, I just can't do this again way? What's hard about constant emergency is not just exhaustion. It's the slow erosion of trust. Because many of us were taught, explicitly or implicitly, that faith works like this. If you believe enough, God's going to swoop and intervene. If you pray faithfully, things will ease up. If you're doing the right things, help is going to arrive. So when life doesn't ease up, the conclusion feels personal. Am I doing something wrong? Is my faith weak? Did God just not see this? Did he miss this? Or worse, is God even paying attention? Here's the thing we don't say often enough in church. Scripture is full of people who are overwhelmed and deeply confused about God's absence. The Psalms are not calm devotional poems. They are cries from people at the end of their ropes. How long, O God? Why do you hide your face? Why have you forgotten me? These are not whispered doubts. They are shouted prayers. Even Jesus prays one of them from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? Which means this feeling, this where are you, is not a failure of faith. It's part of it. This is one of the hardest truths Scripture teaches quietly, consistently, and it's this. God does not usually remove people from overwhelming situations. Instead, God meets them inside of them. Israel is not spared the wilderness. The prophets are not spared rejection. The disciples are not spared fear. And Jesus is not spared suffering. If faith were about preventing overwhelming situations, the Bible would look very different. Instead, the Bible keeps telling a story where God shows up, and not as a problem solver who clears the calendar, but as a presence who refuses to leave. In constant emergency, we're trained to look for relief. So when God shows up as endurance instead of escape, as breath instead of rescue, when God shows up as enough for today instead of fixing everything, it can feel like absence. But Scripture calls it something else. It's called manna. Not abundance, not security, just enough. And only for today. Here's a lie that many faithful people carry without realizing it. If God were really with me, this wouldn't be so hard. But the Bible never says that. What it says again and again is God is with you because it's hard. That doesn't make the situation good. It doesn't sanctify suffering. It doesn't mean God caused it. It simply refuses the cruel conclusion that overwhelm equals abandonment. So instead of asking, where is God and why isn't God fixing this, the Scriptures invite us to a harder and gentler question. Where is God sustaining me in this? Because if you are still here, still caring, still trying, still loving, something is holding you, even if it doesn't feel holy, even if it feels like you're just getting through the day. So if your life is like one long emergency, I hope you hear this clearly. You are not failing at faith. You are not being punished. You are not forgotten. Biblical faith does not promise relief on demand, but it does promise presence that doesn't leave you. And sometimes that presence looks like nothing more than one more breath, one more step, one more day, which in Scripture is often enough.